Okay, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the International Foundation for Electoral Systems on International Youth Day 2020, celebrating youth engagement for global action. Please know that this event will be recorded, and by participating, you give your consent to appear in IFES materials. My name is Andrew Rogan, and I'm a program coordinator and a co-lead for the Youth and Civic Engagement and Education Working Group at IFES. For International Youth Day 2020, and in support of USAID's Democracies campaign, IFES is pleased to host this event to highlight the great work our young leaders around the world are doing and how they are overcoming COVID-19 related challenges to promote youth engagement for global action. For those of you joining an IFES event for the first time today, we are an international nonprofit that supports electoral processes broadly defined across the world since the late 1980s. IFES supports young people to create democratic habits through formal and non-formal programs and election cycle activities, civic awareness, developing democratic values and beliefs, promoting first-time voter participation, and building advocacy skills. During COVID-19, IFES has supported young leaders across the globe in digital activism, including e-learning opportunities and combating disinformation during the COVID-19 infodemic. During today's event, we are excited to hear from you. Please use a Facebook chat box to pose questions to our speakers, and be sure to engage with a thumbs up and hearts icon to show when you like or love something you hear. For closed captions, please use the URL supplied in the chat box, supported by TypeWell. You can receive real-time transcription on your smartphone or computer. To access the streaming text, enter the URL into any browser. We suggest you use a separate browser window for the streaming text so that way you can minimize it, reshape it, and then move it to the most convenient location on your screen. Or you can use a separate device like your phone or tablet if that's more convenient. And with that, I will now introduce our panel of young leaders who will discuss their work in advancement of youth civic engagement. First, we have Shusmita Shrestha, a young woman from Nepal who works with our youth partner, Association of Youth Organizations Nepal, as a senior program officer, focusing on youth engagement and advocacy. Then we have Rashid Bilalov, a young man from Ukraine, who participated in our university civic education course, Democracy from Theory to Practice, and along with other course alumni, became a founding member of the Youth Democratic Association, which seeks to promote youth engagement and participation. And finally, we have Femi John Adebayo, a young man from Nigeria who works with our local partner, Kimpact Development Initiative, as head of research and communication, and is currently supporting the tracking of human rights violations during COVID-19. I'll now turn it over to IFES's youth specialist, Ashley Law, to get the discussion going.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for the introduction to IFES, to myself, and to our great panelists today. As Andrew mentioned, I am the youth specialist here at IFES. So I work with our program teams to design activities that seek to build young people's knowledge and skills around civic engagement and political participation. As you may know, globally, young people under 30 make up about 50% of the youth population. So it's incredibly important that we're designing programs that promote and include opportunities for young people to participate and also lead initiatives and change in their communities, countries, and across the globe. It's also important that we seek out and provide opportunities for young people to share their interests and concerns and what they're doing. So today we're honored to have Shusmita, Rashid, and Femi here to speak with us and share their experiences as young leaders and change makers and really speak to how their actions contribute to positive change in their communities and also global change. So I'd like to start the panel discussion by asking our young leaders to share a bit more about themselves. Today, as we celebrate International Youth Day and this year's theme of youth engagement for global action, we want to know what this means to you. Shusmita, can you please share with us what this means and how you've promoted youth engagement in your community?
Thank you for the question, Ashley. For me, International Youth Day is an opportunity to bring together youth like me on having a common understanding and work together as a common goal. My country, Nepal, is comprised of 40% youth. Therefore, we engage in democratic processes, we can shape the future of our country. For youth engagement, urban and rural youth should get equal opportunities and access to participation. Um, shall I mention about what we are doing, our work? Uh, as a part of ION's Youth for Good Governance program, we have been engaging youth on civic and voter education activities and empowering youth to advocate with the concerned authorities for their rights. I is engaged in activities like informing and educating youths on the forms of governance of Nepal, the work, duties, and rights of different levels of government, and how youth can create a positive space and participate in governance system. The local government is the nearest government, and it is even more important for youth to engage directly with the elected representatives such that the needs of the youths address. To be precise, our activities includes democracy, election, governance related trainings, community mobilization, social media campaign, outreach and collaboration, and advocacy with representatives on local plans and programs. In addition to that, our activities have both education and entertainment modes. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Shusmita. Really interesting to hear about the work that you're doing in Nepal. Rashid, can you answer the question and share a bit about your work?
Yeah, of course. First of all, thanks a lot for having me today. That's an honor to be on this panel with a lot of young people and Shusmita and Femi to talk about these important things. For me personally, International Youth Day is like a great opportunity for young people around the world to actually speak up and have this voice. In a lot of situations, we in Ukraine and in a lot of countries, we have a certain problem that we are a part of making a certain change, but not always we are heard. And this is a day when we can share and talk about these important issues we're facing and we're trying to change and make our communities better. So as Andrew said, I was an alumna of the course Democracy from Theory to Practice, which was the course implemented by the IFES in Ukraine, in Kharkiv. This is where I'm from. And that's like the course which gave me the fundamental principles of democracy and values, which gave me this deeper understanding of how this works and how I, as a student of a university, as a citizen of Ukraine, could actually change things which I do not like. And it gave me a lot of tools I could use for making the community I live in a bit better and a bit more aware of the things we're going through. So, but probably like one of the most important things what the course gave is I found like-minded people. I found people who are on the same page with me, and this is how we created the Youth Democratic Association, because students from all over Ukraine who share the same values as I do. We came up with the idea to create the organization YODA, and we've created this organization not a very long time ago, but for this like short period of time, we've managed to pull through a couple of projects which are focusing on the youth engagement and youth participation. And that's basically our mission, to educate and unite and mobilize the active generations for the development of our community and of democratic progress in Ukraine.
Great, thanks, Rashid. It's interesting to hear how taking a civic education course led to you and a couple other alumni founding this new organization, YODA. We'll turn to Femi now. Femi, we'd like to hear your thoughts and about some of the work you do as well.
Thank you so much, Ashley. For International Youth Day, I think it's a day where the youth globally comes together for them to articulate their needs and their priority towards their government, and of course, in a way, reiterate and enact a kind of ideology they believes in and what they require that the government should basically do or meet their needs. And of course, youth engagement for global action to me also means getting young people to be part of sustainable development processes and activities in their community, getting young people involved in responsible and challenging actions to create a positive social change. And for me, summarily, it's just talking about by youth, with youth, and for the youth. And of course, I work with Impact Development Initiative, a local partner of IFES here in Nigeria. And Impact Development Initiative is a non-governmental, non-partisan organization that inspires citizen-led democratic and economic development. And we fix this on the principle of citizen participation, public policy advancement, strong institutions, and a whole lot. We've done a lot of things around youth development. Like I said, young people are at the core of our engagement in Impact. Very recently, we organized our volunteers across the states in Nigeria, the 36 states, including the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja. And basically what we do is to just use young people, organizing them to actually track, because as at that moment, gender-based violence, human rights violation was actually on the high side, on the increase. So what we do is we know to some reasonable extent data is an issue in this part of the world. So we have to stand in that space, in that gap, to see that how do we use youth, young persons, to track, document, to track, report, and document issues of human rights violations. And we did this in partnership with IFES. This youth-led violence tracking initiative, it's basically aimed at, like I said, providing impartial voices against human rights violation and gender-based violence, with the ultimate goal, of ending the culture of impunity through disaggregated data. And that as a tool for advocacy and for advocating for law against GBV and gender-based violence and human rights violation. For example, it was actually discovered that there was before lockdown, the COVID-19 lockdown, and during COVID-19 lockdown, where we actually tracked those issues of human rights violation, there was about 149% increase in the cases that was reported. During lockdown compared to the issues before lockdown. And this data was actually alarming. It woke up a lot of persons, and to the extent that even there was a campaign on the state of emergency GBV, and this particular data gathering initiative actually informed the advocacy. And right now, the National Assembly here in Nigeria is already working on the bill or the law, which I think very recently it was in the news that they've actually passed the law to actually stiffen the penalties against sexual offenders and a whole lot. So that is basically from my hand.
Great, thanks, Femi. I think, the work that you're doing, the work that Rashid and Shusmita do, it all really contributes to democracy building across the world, and it's all important work. So I appreciate you sharing a little bit about what you do. I think, given the current COVID-19 pandemic, and Femi, you touched on this a little bit, how have you adapted your approach to engaging your peers and community members? And how have you continued to lead and implement the work that you're doing with the barriers that COVID-19 has posed? And maybe, Femi, we'll kick it back to you to start with this question.
Okay. COVID-19, it's an invisible enemy that every of us in every part of the world we are combating, and it actually translated us to the new normal, where we limit gathering. At some point, I think it's a test on. I think it's a test on the how do I put it now? On the human relationship between human. But during this COVID-19, as regards tracking and documenting gender-based violence and human rights violation generally, one of the ways we've been able to do this basically is that we ensure in Impact Development Initiative and of course with the support of IFES Nigeria, to ensure that all our monitors, our volunteers are safe. We retreat this over and over again. We train them via technology of web-based platforms, digital platforms like this video conferencing, Zoom, most especially. And we have an existing online community on WhatsApp where we actually pass information. So we leverage on all of this platform. Most especially, we also leverage on the social media platforms, the Twitter, the Facebook, Instagram, to actually pass information. So because already there is an existing ban on gathering, gathering. So we actually leverage on this technology to pass information and engage our audience. And most especially, you know, through infographics, we engage our audience with we discover these days that people don't even love to read. The attention span has reduced. So basically what we do is to visualize our data, to visualize our thought, every of our research output in infography, so that at a glance, every of our audience and the youth across Nigeria and across the world will be able to get our information at a glance. Thank you.
Thanks, Femi. Yeah, that's a great answer. You bring up some really, really good points there. Shusmita, can we turn over to you?
Yes, most of the things already Feni mentioned. But what we have been doing is, due to COVID-19 pandemic, we have changed our working modality for community engagement. We have been using digital tools, as Femi mentioned in his presentation. We have been hosting webinars, numerous webinars on with both elected representatives and youths, focusing on youth-focused programs. And recently we had budget. We had a fiscal year, and so we had a budget announcement. So in that way, we had webinars with engaging elected representatives, and also as well as the representatives from 3 layers of governments. And also we engaged youths to include youth-focused budget for that, and political participation of mental well-being and counseling for youth participation in the electoral process, and webinars on countering hate speech, countering misinformation, disinformation, and hate speech during the COVID-19 pandemic. And also we have been doing the work since it's lockdown, and we have to maintain social distancing. Though we have to maintain social distancing, we have been doing monitoring and reporting on accessibility and management of quarantine and isolation shelters, and COVID responses targeting youth, such as migrant workers as well. And on the part of social media, we have developed a web-based application to provide online civic and electoral education. Besides, we share information also through infographics, audio, and video messages. Yeah, thank you.
Great, Shusmita. Thanks for talking about how to sort of overcome these barriers posed by COVID-19 and still be able to engage our community members and other young activists. Rashid, we'll turn it over to you to also answer the question.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of things have been mentioned here by Femi and Shusmita, but there are some of the things we also made during the COVID-19, which actually made which caused a lot of difficulties for us, but we did it, and we tried to engage as many young people as possible during this COVID-19. So of course we used a lot of video conferences and the Zoom, and we also tried to make some webinars for the young people and for everybody who's interested in democracy and democratic values. So one of the things which we made during the pandemic was the project Online Democratic Marathon, which we created to sort of increase participants' knowledge of democracy and the core values of democracy. So increase the level of tolerance and communication and during discussions with other participants. So we basically united young people from all over Ukraine and even people from different countries to talk about democratic values and core values of it. And alongside that, we we tried to communicate with our lawmakers and also have this communication between the lawmakers and the students. So which we also tried to do, and we made it. We had this project which was to improve the level of students' trust in authorities and develop students' awareness of public issues and have a little bit of a more understanding of how the government works for the students. And students could actually ask the questions to the lawmakers which they are interested in and want to know more about. So of course, as well, we have our social media accounts, which is Instagram and Facebook, and we've been trying to post weekly some of the infographics about the responsibilities of the government, about the, again, core values of democracy. And we have people who are following us and people who are responding to that and gaining a new sort of bit of information about these important things. Yeah, so these are like these are the things we've been doing all together in the organization. And of course, you know, what Shusmita and Femi said, that's also part of our job.
Great, thank you, Rashid. I think you kind of introduced us into the next question. You know, a lot of young people say that they find it hard to connect with lawmakers and elected leaders and sort of be at that formal table where decisions are made. So I wonder, are there particular ways or strategies, and Rashid, I think you just mentioned one, maybe you could elaborate a bit more on that. But any other ways or strategies that you found really helpful in promoting young people's right to participate with policymakers and elected leaders and sort of bridging that gap that exists between young leaders and elected leaders? Maybe Femi, we'll start with you.
All right. Thank you, Ashley. As regards connecting policymakers, lawmakers, decision makers, elected leaders, you know, to youth or with youth in my community, one strategy that I've seen that I've worked over the years for Rose and for me working in Impact Development Initiative is basically engaging lawmakers with fact. It's in a way in my community there is this belief that youth majorly coming to lawmakers to demand for money and for material things, in all of this, it has actually created this barrier between the two set of entities that we're talking about here. So basically, what we've been doing in an advocacy like the Osun Youth Agenda, that's a kind of advocacy which Impact implemented or engaged in very recently. And we aggregated the voices of the young people. It will amaze you that even to the local level, some of the officials in court does not even have data that will inform their own intervention from their hand. So we actually saw this as a way to engage them. So we do a lot of desk research and went to them with fact and with constructive engagement, not attacking, not, and that was where the slogan came that, the word came that advocacy is not, how do I call it? Aluta. There is a word here in Nigeria called aluta. So it's not like that. So basically what we do is in the Osun Youth Agenda, we gather fact, data. We started by doing a research, aggregating the voices of the young people. What is your needs as a young person in this state? So we came up, there's a national youth policy that has 18 thematic areas. And basically what we do is to push it out to gather the opinions and the view of young people. So we sampled that across the local government in my state. And basically we analyzed this data and presented it as an agenda of the youth to the government. And we started by advocating for the inclusion of the youth needs in the budget. So that was where the advocacy started from, and we went to them with fact. We analyzed previous budgets to show the marginalization and the exclusion of youth, even in the appropriation of the state for the past years. So we went to them, we demonstrated that to them, and they were even surprised because they, the other side, does not even have a clear view of what has been happening. So we came to them, we went to them with data, and after that, it will amaze you that to along the line, that shows the flexibility in our engagement. Along the line, we caught that there is need for a strategic and clear youth development framework for the state, so that when administration goes by, there will be an institution that really work or that is concerned majorly on the youth needs and youth development. So we started a legislative advocacy, and that is the ultimate, the zenith of it, a legislative advocacy that there is need for a youth development commission in the state. And very recently, through giving out our data as a fact, we look at some other jurisdictions where they've actually implemented this outside Nigeria, and we look at their model to see how we work. With our technical expert, we actually put together the bill and presented to the House. Thank God that, thanks that the leadership of the House of Assembly in my community caught the idea, and the bill has been passed by the House of Assembly. And currently, we are waiting the governor's assent for the implementation, perfect implementation of this law. And basically, even engaging youth, we actually brought the youth, because most times if our elected officials are not ready, they are not ready to meet with the youth. So basically what we do as an organization in Kimpact is we'll bring the youth closer to them. So we stage, or we organize an event called Oshun Youth Meet Mr. Speaker. And we actually did the legwork. We went across to every of the 26 members of the House of Assembly, including the leader, the speaker, and they got the idea, and the speaker gave his words that he would be present to meet with the youth in a town hall in a town hall. And we staged this. The speaker came and actually spoke with the youth. The youth spoke a lot about their needs and what they really want, they want from the government. And of course, the expectation from the leadership of the House of Assembly, I mean the legislative arm of government in my community, they actually he expressed his expectation, what he wants from the youth. And of course, let me quickly talk about the gender-based violence tracking initiative. Of course, we came up, after this research work, we came up with a lot of recommendations, but basically what we actually did was to push this out, and of course sent to some of these key personalities and the government officials, the legislative arm of government, the executive. We send across to them and follow up. And like I said the other time, I think I've said this before, it's actually informed the speedy reaction, accelerated hearing towards passing of a bill into law that will stiffen the punishment, or that will brace up the punishment against sexual offenders in the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Femi. I think, again, you've brought to light some really great strategies to bring young people and elected leaders together. I really like this idea of the Youth Development Commission and the support with passing the law. That's fantastic. You all have done great work. Maybe can we turn it over to Shusmita?
Yes. Most of the things Femi already mentioned in his comments. So there are so many things similar what Femi has been doing and what Ion and we have been doing in here in Nepal. Before the lockdown, we have been going to the community, intervening with the community youths, and finding their new needs and priorities. And based on that needs and priorities, we are developing a memorandum and submitting it to the local governments, so that their voice can be heard in their policy, local level policy. Due to COVID pandemic, we have been hosting webinars and doing advocacy with government authorities and elected representatives on youth needs and priorities. Based on that, we developed a policy platform document identifying different areas for advocacy, such as formation of youth policy at local level, accessible electoral participation for youth, engagement of youth during local level planning process, which happens every year, representation of youth in various committees, youth participation in legal and policy development processes, and resource mapping, and employment opportunities, and economic empowerment for all groups of youth. On these points from our policy platform document, we have been continuously engaged with advocacy and lobby activities and have seen some positive results as well. Due to our continuous collaboration with numerous local governments on COVID-19, our work has been recognized, and we are selected as a member of the COVID-19 response committee formed by the Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizen. Yeah, since ION is a network organization, we have 92 member organization, and IFES is our donor. So we have been working in 44 districts. So that's why the Ministry of Women, Children, and Senior Citizen welcomed us and recognized our work and selected as a member of COVID-19 response. So yeah, that's the thing from our side. Thank you.
Thanks, Shusmita. If I heard you correctly, it sounded like a policy platform is absolutely a great tool, but it also sounds like you're starting to get involved in COVID-19 response strategy development, which is fantastic. This is something that in a lot of conversations recently is coming up, sort of bridging the gap to allow young people to inform these strategies and policies that are in response to the current pandemic. So that's wonderful to hear that that's happening in Nepal. Rashid, would you like to weigh in as well, please?
Yeah, of course. There are a lot of things Femi and Shusmita have been doing with and their organizations, and actually in Ukraine and here as we're based in different cities, we've been trying to do the same things. I mean, in terms of developing the democratic values and bridging this young people and the lawmakers. So as I've already said before, we had this topic with one of the lawmakers from our parliament who went online with the students who were actually very interested in having a discussion about education, because she was a representative of a education and the parliament of that group and of that committee. So we had questions and answers. We had many people who were asking different questions to the lawmaker, which were all based on how education is going to be developing and whether the young people could be part of it and could actually influence these things. And many young people who were on that meeting, they actually connected one of the lawmakers, to give the agenda and to give the topics which they are trying to develop in Ukraine, and different organizations have done the same thing. So we connected what we think we did, and what many organizations have kind of passed on it is we tried to contact the lawmaker who's actually there and who's actually making a change with the young people who are trying and doing as much they can to make a certain change in education or in any sphere possible. So that's one of the ways we tried to contact them, and we tried to bring young people into this. And as well, we had many webinars how young people could create the petition and actually sort of write a petition on a certain topic so that it gets enough signs, and how you can do that, and in which way, and what kind of topic, and what you should do. So these are, it's not, again, it's not as much as, for example, Shusmita and Femi have done. That's honestly a lot, and I'm very, very impressed. But here, step by step, we're trying to implement these things and engage young people here. And a little bit of a spoiler. So this fall 2020, because we're going to be having local elections, we will be also part of a huge campaign to encourage young people to go out and vote and show that they are part of this country and the citizens to, change something they don't like, to have this agenda so that we are heard. So that's just the start of it. And we're just starting, and we're going to build up and do more and more. in protecting human rights in Ukraine and developing democratic values and trying to develop as much as we can.
Thanks, Rashid. I think it's really great to see the passion that you speak with about human rights and democracy in Ukraine, and it's nice to see that passion in all of you as well. Rashid, I appreciate that you brought up online petitions. I think this is something that young people are really using now during COVID-19 because of social distancing and not being able to sort of gather together in social movements. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and always pleased to hear that young people are getting involved in voter education efforts. So we look forward to hearing more about that soon. Femi, I think we wanted to come back to you. You might have had one more comment on this question.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's actually nice hearing Shusmita and Rashid talk about a lot of things they've been doing. But just to add to my thought for this same question is basically there is need for young people also. Basically what we do in Compact is, if the young, like I said the other time, if the legislators or the policymakers are not really willing or coming, so we come up with an innovative way, most especially an event where we bring them in. These are set of persons that love to be part of innovation. So we started something called the Democracies School. This is not a regular form of school, but what we do is we do it cohort by cohort. So we bring young people. That young persons really crave to have more knowledge when it comes to democracy and democratic settings. So we actually instill these democratic ideals and just to bring and raise young leaders. So and also we bring in the legislators to come and teach and explain the ways things are going in the plenary, in their chambers. And we bring also the executive also to come and explain to them their role in government and what they do. So these are the ways we actually, innovative way, we make both the young people and the elected leaders to come together so that there will be interaction and engagement over the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Femi. I appreciate you sharing that as well. I want to wrap up this session so that we have time to address some of the questions that folks are posting as comments on the Facebook Live video. So this last one, I kind of want you all to have a little bit of fun with and speak directly to other young leaders like yourselves. What advice or tips would you like to share with other young leaders to help them influence the development of national policies or local strategies so that they better reflect their views and their opinions and things that are important to them? And I'd be interested to hear if you have any sort of targeted advice or tips for young women or young people with disabilities who face unique barriers to political participation as well. So maybe Rashid, can we start with you?
Yeah, of course. So when I've been thinking about the question, I have thought about the organizations like we are and we're sharing, so that people, and young people in particular, could be a part of it, because I do believe that non-government organizations and nonprofit organizations are making a lot of changes in the community step by step and influencing the lawmakers, because we have the power to do it. But as well as I do believe that the strategy of influencing through social media during the COVID-19 is actually a very, very big thing to do. So through Instagram or Facebook accounts, because speaking up on a certain issue would actually bring attention of many people around, and they would share that and make this and solve kind of this problem. So I would say that I still believe that the first and the most important is youth activism, youth parliaments, youth councils, youth organizations, and youth nonprofit organizations, because we have this inclusive society where everybody could be part of it, and where everyone, whether you like that organization or maybe you want to be part of something else and focus on a certain on another topic, you could be part of that, be a member of it, and actually join and do many great things. So I would say this is the strategy I have for the young people, for those who are active and for those who really want to change something they don't like, as digital participation, as I've said, online petitions. If you don't want to be part of any organization or formal organization, you could make your own online petition on a certain topic, or you could be part of us, be part of this active young people generation who are focusing on democratic values or on environmental problems. And every organization I've heard of and every organization I've seen, they are doing the public events and educating young people, and not just young people, but everybody who's interested. Having petitions and writing petitions, and also gathering people on a certain even peaceful protest. Even these things happen, and people do it, and different organizations are trying to implement that as well.
Great, thank you, Rashid. I think it's important that you bring up, there's many ways that young people can participate. It can be a formal process, an informal process, it could be public facing, it can be something behind the scenes, but no matter what it is, it does contribute. And that's an important distinction to make. Shusmita, would you like to share some thoughts on this?
Yeah. As a part of strategy to influence the government of policy, what I would like to add on is that first, young people should be aware of their rights and their needs and the needs of their community. Once they are informed about their roles, responsibility, and needs along with the services provided by the government, they are better able to advocate for rights. To set their short-term and long-term goal, it would be better if they can identify smart goal that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, which is very important. And in addition to that, for effective advocacy, I think if SWOT analysis at either individual or organization level is done, we'll get a clear picture and can find most effective tools and method for advocacy in 3 levels of government separately, especially here in Nepal. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shusmita. I think that's a great point. Young people sometimes need to build up a little bit of knowledge and awareness around what their rights actually are around political participation, so that they actually can take action. So that's a great point. Femi, can we turn it over to you?
All right, thank you, Ashley. Great points from Shusmita and Rashid on strategies for young people. And just to add to what they've said, basically, I think young people need to start gathering, if they want to advocate or make their needs or their priority or development priority known to elected leaders or officials. There is need for them to gather data. Data gathering advocacy is important. When you're showing fact and figures, you're constructive in your engagement. You're trying to put it to them that, okay, according to data released by verified, trusted, and proven organization, and this is what it is, to show the extent of damage to them. I think that's what it is for me. And also, youth needs to speak with one formidable voice. It's very important because there is something in my community called divide and rule. There's a way the youth, if they are not united, one ham is speaking in favor. The EU is at hand, but no one is speaking of the EU. Some part are speaking of the EU, some part are singing the praise of elected officials. So these are the things that are important that you need to speak with one formidable voice. And of course, utilizing the small space that we have, it's very important to speak up at every point. And young people should not wait till when they get a bigger platform. And there is need for us to start from where we are. We need to start from the point where we are currently, because if we are expecting the bigger platform, it might not come very soon. So we need to start increasing our voices, letting our voice known at this current stage that we have. And of course, I need to add the social media to this. I think it is an important point. These are ways that we can make our voices known, because on social media you can decide to talk about things you cannot, ways, constructive things. Let me put it that way. You might not be able to say one-on-one or in person, in which you don't have the opportunity. You can decide to say that, and the moment is trending, and if it is a good cause, you see attention are being drawn to it, and a whole lot is being done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Femi. I think, speaking where you are and the power of a collective voice, that's really important to remember, and the power of research and data. That's a point you've made over and over, and I think that's really important to consider around young people's participation and engagement. So I just want to thank you all for answering those questions. You've shared some great advice and insights, and I now want to hand it over to Andrew to maybe facilitate some of the questions from the Facebook.
Thanks, Ashley. Yes, so far we've heard so many different successes, approaches, and challenges, and I especially loved hearing about all the ways that you're using web-based tools and digital activism and building policy platforms, combating negative perceptions of youth engagement. It's been really interesting to hear all of your perspectives. So I'll take one of the first questions here. So we have been posed, what can donors do better to support the opportunities for taking civic and political action, such as networking, mentoring, policies, supporting youth-led CSOs, civic education, digital support, etc.?
Shusmita, Rashid, Femi, feel free to just unmute and answer the question if you have thoughts around it. I think, donors have a unique opportunity to really help sort of provide space for young people's engagement, but it would be great to hear what you all think as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I think the donor community have done extremely well for us in my community and with my organization, most especially the International Foundation for Electoral System, IFES. I think it has been a lot of great partnership and support from IFES. And I must say, to talk about what the donor community or donors can do better, I think over and over, I think capacity development for some of EUs at hand, it has been there. Donors like IFES has been doing this, and I think like the NDI, that's National Democratic Institute, HRI. So basically, I know that it has been in existence. So basically, just to do more of capacity development for local partners, and of course, I think in a community where the world globally is moving towards technology, or possibly the technology is what is in, even with the advent of COVID-19, we don't have an option other than to stick to technology because gatherings are limited. So basically, I think digital support is also another thing that is very important for local partners. And in all, that's just the 2 points I want to make. No, thank you.
Shusmita, Rashid, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I would like to add something on that. Yes, for us, for ION, it's we also do our organization known as for the policy advocacy organization, and I would say it would be better if the donor will support regarding the policy advocacy methods, as it's similar to capacity development for the partners, since IFES has been doing a great job and has been supporting us to develop policy platform and the way we can enhance our work. But I would also like to add, like, we should like do like IFES has done, the other donor also could more focus on the networking and policy advocacy, like how we can do better job and do advocacy together and get a result also, because we all are working for the rights for youth, and we are trying to ensure youth voices, and we are trying to ensure meaningful youth participation in policy making processes. And then we need to develop the strategies how we can ensure those young participation and to justify their voices. And since there are many young people who are left behind and their voices still to be heard, and we the donors and the local partners and the youth-led organization need to work together and ensure the voices of the marginalized young peoples, and which can be heard by the government or and shared in globally. So yeah, so those are the points I actually wanted to add. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Shusmita. Rashid, did you wanna comment as well?
I can't say that in a lot of situations I do agree that there might be a better work and a better development between the organization and donors, but for this past couple of months we've been working. We've had a lot of support from the IFES, and we've had a lot of support and technical support and all of the possible support to implement our projects. So I cannot say that I can't give my insightful opinion on this, very much. So I apologize. I guess that would be my answer. Maybe we should work more and see how it goes.
Great, thanks. So the next question is, what role do or should youth play in maintaining transparency in the election process and engaging with election management bodies? Maybe Femi, you can start off and talk a little bit about the election monitoring that KDI has done.
Okay, KDI over the years have actually worked in part or with the support of IFES to do a lot of voter monitoring violence and documenting violence using the HEVA methodology, election violence, education and resolution, to work on the NEVA project, Nigeria Election Violence Report. And this methodology has been a robust one, and it has really helped us to increase our capacity in every area. So basically, young people in the community should be ready to volunteer. I think volunteering is the word, to actually be part of this process, because as IFES is increasing our capacity in this area, we are also stepping that down, to the volunteers and of course our local partners also at the grassroots level. So basically, that is one. Number two is apart from this, there is need for, apart from volunteering, I think there is need for young people to also be ready. I'm trying to drift carefully, to be ready to, how do I put it, to be part of the process at every point. Because while during monitoring election violence, we've seen a lot of young persons, even during the NEVA project, we've seen a lot of young persons being used to foment trouble. Young persons are both victims and perpetrators of violence. So basically, what we've actually seen over time is the moment you take the message to the young people, it looks like most persons' emotions are overwhelming for them. So most persons don't know what it is. So basically, I think there is need for young persons to also build the capacity or take this peace messaging to young people. And I think in terms of transparency in electioneering or electoral process rather, I think transparency, violence is one of the things that actually disrupt or that doesn't allow transparency in the process. So most especially with partnership with IFES, we've been working around this over the years by actually gathering data. I am always hammering on this word data and research, gathering data and present it to stakeholders. It will surprise you that the last elections, governorship elections in Bayelsa, that was 2019, 2019, The data we gathered are put together with some of the dialogue sections and meeting stakeholders had actually informed and increased the awareness, or conversations rather, increased conversations on creating an election offenders commission, where there will be swift prosecution of electoral offenders. And over the years, this particular discussion has been put aside at the parking lot. But due to some of this, our engagement, there has been increased conversation as regards electoral offense commission. And of course, we've actually put together some of these reports. Some of this report will put together and present to stakeholders that could also engage the electoral management bodies or political actors as a whole at the higher level. Because while we are doing the grassroots and the state level, some of those notable individuals are also doing this at the national, yes, at the top level. So I think basically those are some of the few things I'm going to talk about as the involvement of youth in electoral process. Thank you.
Thanks, Femi. It's really interesting to hear how you guys have used a dual approach for both local engagement and also national engagement. I think that's super important, especially when we think about International Youth Day's theme this year for youth engagement for global action, because everything starts at a small level, but building it up is really a great way to increase your participation. Rashid, it looked like maybe you wanted to comment on this question as well.
Yeah, of course. Thanks a lot for the question. If there are some things which we as the young people in Ukraine have been trying to achieve here, and that's transparent and free elections in Ukraine. And that's what I want to elaborate a little bit on, because in our latest elections we had pretty secure and pretty free and transparent elections because of the young people taking part in this. We've had many organizations, many nonprofit organizations who were having these calls on volunteers to observe the elections and be part of the election process during the voting. So that's one of the things when young people could actually engage in that and be part of it, and that we have this free entrance here in Ukraine when anybody who wants to secure and who wants to have free and fair elections could be part of it and watch that. And if somebody breaks something, if somebody breaks the wall or breaks the election process, you observe that and you call in that and you prevent this thing from happening. And we, as well as the organization, we are in a lot of situations, we're focusing, as I said, on youth engagement. That's like our main focus and our main goal. And that's why we, in a very, very, in a couple of months, that's about in the fall of 2020, we will be calling on volunteers to not only be observers of the elections, but also learn more about this and teach other people about the election process and how it goes in Ukraine and local levels. Because we had a year ago, we had on the national level, and now we're going to be having this on a local level, which means a lot. And we've had many young people who are now signed up for, to be part of this, to start from this and try to make it as democratic as possible, as free and transparent as possible.
Thanks, Rashid. I think, especially given the context of local elections in Ukraine, it's certainly going to be an interesting period of time to see how youth engage. Shusmita, did you want to add anything?
Yes, most likely to Rashid mentioned, like one of the key component of democracy is free and fair election. So that's what we have been doing. Like we are trying to, to build the capacity of young peoples and to make them engage in the electoral processes. So one of the things like we have been doing and the youth can do is like being engaged in the voter election process, because that is also the process of elections. And through that, it's like, like they can know their own roles and responsibility, because they have the roles and they have the responsibility to seek a transparency also. Yeah, so that's why we are trying to, and we have been doing advocacy for youths to be aware of their own responsibility, and why it is important for youth like us to ask for transparency here in Nepal also. Like um, in previous election here in Nepal back in 2017, what we can observe that many young people from Nepal were signed up as a uh, election observers as a part of the organization. It's like we don't have a policy to directly engage to be a election observer, but what we can do is, like, if the youth aid organization can sign up for the election observer, they signed the youths to go to election places and observe what is happening. And so that is also one thing that youth can learn about the electoral process, because here the many of youths don't see the elections is like, the being part of election is, it's their cup of tea. So they more like to go outside and not to participate. But these days we can see the young people, they have been changing their perspective, and they really want to know what is exactly happening, and why we want to raise voices about free and fair election, and why we want to uh, be transparent about what happened during the electoral pre-election process, during the process, and after the process. Like youth wants to know entire process of elections. And that is the thing, like if we youth can show our interest, and we keep asking to the government, like we want to know about what happened and what is going to happen. So I think from that, asking more questions, and using our right to information rights, uh, from that, government definitely, local level government, or provincial level or national level government, definitely will give us answer and practice free and fair election everywhere, rather than being like, engaging as, like Femi said, violence there, because youth has been manipulated everywhere, and they are the tools and the bones for carrying the election. Also, they can be used for creating propaganda during the election. So through that, we can also giving them more knowledge about the importance of seeking information, and raising questions about our needs and our responsibility, and as well as our rights to ask, and how we can contribute to make them transparent. So I think that way youth can create a mass gathering, and through that I think we can able to get transparent electoral process. Yes, that's from me.
Thanks, Shusmita. Femi, I think you wanted to add something quickly.
All right, very quickly, thank you so much, Andrew. So very quickly, I think working on monitoring violence in elections before, during, and after elections, and actually working with IFES and methodology, the HEVA methodology on the Nigeria Election Violence Report has also helped us to work around the election security risk assessment. And basically what that is young persons are involved also in gathering data, in going to the grassroots, getting opinions, eliciting opinions and view of young and everybody in the community at the lowest of the lowest level, to get their views as regards the expectation of peaceful election. So we bring this together, and analytically we analyzed it, then doing a lot of desk review with key stakeholders in with real-time information to actually come up with the hotspot map. And we've been doing this for every elections. And after this, the report, we'll put the report together and pass to security agencies with INEC, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission here in Nigeria. We'll pass it across to community leaders, using state and non-state actors to actually pass about peace messaging across. And of course, this process all starts with the young persons. And also it goes back to the young people, because after this, all of our messaging still goes to the young people. And also another thing we also do is we use this methodology again to still speak against voter apathy. And I think these, when we're talking about transparency in elections, violence is one of the major that actually does not give room for transparency in elections. So we use this to actually still speak against voter apathy, because it looks more like citizens here in Nigeria are not really interested in voting process because they've lost faith. And using all of this, we use that to encourage them that if you stay away from voting, there is every possibility that the same thing you're complaining about still comes back, because when citizens are not coming out, that there's a way they are even the little that are out, their views, their voice could be there could be subversion, in a way. So that's basically what we've been doing, also just to add to my response. Thank you.
Thank you, Femi. I think, bringing to light the role that young people can play in conflict resolution and conflict mitigation, particularly around electoral violence, is really a great point for us to sort of end on today. And I just want to thank all the speakers, Femi, Shusmita, and Rashid, for for your leadership, for your action, and for your candor in today's discussion. You've definitely shared some wonderful insights and knowledge about the work you're doing in the countries that you live and work in. And I think we're all really grateful to have had the chance to listen to you all today. I also want to thank Andrew and the IFES staff behind the scenes who have helped facilitate this event. And I also want to point out just a couple of quick resources that might be of interest. IFES has a COVID-19 briefing series, and just recently we released a paper on the inclusion and meaningful political participation. And in this paper, we really speak to the ways that we can include all people in elections and democracy during COVID-19 and other crises. And this includes a specific section on young people participation. And there's also an article, I saw a comment on the Facebook video that, there was interest around how we can engage young people through EMB support. And so I want to sort of just offer this article that provides recommendations for EMBs to boost young people's political participation during COVID-19. This will also be dropped into one of the comments on the video. And of course, to stay up to date and learn more about the youth programs here at IFES, please do follow us on Twitter at IFES Youth, and check out the new stories that we update quite often on the youth engagement page of ifes.org. So with that, thank you again to the panelists and to everyone who's helped facilitate this event today, and to the audience for your participation. We're really grateful, and have a great International Youth Day.